And this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Joshua 1:8. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And we're in the law. We're starting, as you prepare, with Exodus. We're still in Exodus chapter 20, the law according to Exodus. And Exodus chapter 20 is where we started. We had just finished with the commandments, and we come to the point where God, the chief of all the commandments is that we should love God with all our mind, heart, and soul. But also he gets into the biggest sin of those of today and then, and that is idolatry. Then we talked about our relation to each other as those who are of the seed of Jacob. The world can come, but there's one law for all, but yet we all are talking about the seed of Jacob. If we deem ourselves the seed of Jacob, and that covetousness, desiring what is your neighbor's, or should I say your brother's, is prohibited. Desiring, evil desire. If he doesn't sell it to you or give it to you, desire it not. Because then we commit adultery because of covetousness, desiring that which is not ours. There's nothing wrong with covetousness. There's nothing wrong with desiring things. But when we can't have it, when we can't obtain it, then we might fall into lustful sin. Adultery, lying, disobedient to parents. All these things are because of our covetous hearts. Now we get into the rest of the, and never forget the Sabbath day. That's in honoring God, and that we believe that the Most High is the creator of all things. We have many names for him. Sanini Nanini Tata Nzame Deheya Hayya Allah. Yes, even Yahuwah and Yahweh. Yahweh. There's many names in many languages that we say the I am. Yes. Now we get to the point where we says now we go down to Exodus chapter 20, and we're going to start with 22. Well, we're skipping in different places, just getting to the law. We're not going to go into the historical part, but just the law itself. And the I am said in verse 22, he says, and the I am said unto Moses, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. You don't want to, what more can you ask for when God has talked? No man can never see God and live. But when God talks to you and tell you what he desires of you, the covenant that he has with you, you've seen that. Now he's telling you right here, this coincides, and we're in verse 23 now. This coincides with the first commandment, thou shalt love. How do we love God? Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall you make unto you gods of gold. This is how he's saying, you're loving God, right? He's saying, this is what I require. When you love somebody, you find out what they like and they don't like. We're not talking about the heathen. We're not talking about everybody else. We're talking about the children of Jacob. If you deem yourself a child of Jacob, he said, neither shall ye make unto yourself gods of gold. Something that you worship, something that is more dear to you than God himself. Yes, this is idol. And he goes again and says, an altar of earth shall ye make unto me, and shall sacrifice thereon your burnt offerings and peace offerings and sheep and your oxen and all the places where I record my name. I will come unto you and I will bless you. Now, when you give an offering of repentance, that's thanking God and that God has accepted your repentance. He's already forgiven you if you have done this thing in your heart. And in your heart, you will not do those things again. God sees your heart before you see your heart. And really, our sacrifices will reflect the condition of our hearts. And God will either accept them or he reject them, depending on your heart. This is the reason for that. That's why he says it doesn't matter about the sacrifice. This is just a show of greatness. Thank you for forgiving me, most holy Sanini Nanini Tada and Zambi. Hey, ya Allah. He says, thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for this beautiful new year. Thank you for just look on all the children of Israel. We thank you that those of who have repented, that you have accepted, even accept with this offering, their repentance. Yes, this is what we're talking about. And all the time you can ask God forgiveness. You sin a sin and you ask God forgiveness, but then you might not be able to get to the temple a year later. See, this is what it's all about. You're just not going to, every time you sin a sin, you're just going to go and, the next day just sacrifice on the altar. No, it's not going to happen. Let's make it real now. We got to make it real. So this was the reason for all of that. And you have to realize God made the first sacrifice, whether you agree with it or not. When Adam and Eve sinned, it wasn't the fruit. It was that they disobeyed God's commandment. That was the evil that they have done. Somehow God had an animal slaughtered to make skins for their covering because they knew they were naked. They were ashamed. Think about it. Now, he talks about don't make an altar. Don't. He says make it of earth. In other words, you can pile earth up if you don't have rocks. An altar of earth. He's telling you how to honor him, how to love him. Shalt you sacrifice your offerings. Now, he says, now if you're going to make an altar of stones, you will not build it with hewn stones. In other words, you could just lay on a mound of earth. You just dig it up or whatever. You're more safe with earth anyway. You just dig it up and throw your pine, as according to the book of Jasher, he says use pine trees, and there's another type of tree he talks about too. Not these other, not no oak. He didn't say oak trees. He didn't say all these other, pine tree. Did you know a pine tree is nutritious? You can eat many things off the pine tree. The needles are full of vitamin C. The bark, there's an inner, and when you remove the bark, there's an inner, not the wood, but just before you get to the wood, there's an inner layer that's full of nutrients. And also it will help you men too, in building your testosterone. But you only take a little of it a day and that's it. Pine, even the pine cone is edible. You make it out of a tea or you can ground it. Some of these people grind it into flour. I mean, that little inner layer, that inner membrane, before you get to the wood, after you remove the bark. You can even use the bark, and it helps ailments. It helps, especially the white pine. But it's hard to find the white pine in certain regions. Mostly in the east, they're using ponderosa pine. It's still good, but it's not like the white pine. I don't know why they call it the white pine, because it don't look white to me. But either way, that's what they call it. Now, he says, now, if thou would make an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it with hewn stone. In other words, don't be cutting blocks and stuff trying to make a pretty altar. That's what he's saying. Don't lift up no tools against no hammer or nothing. But you get whatever fell or whatever broke off the earth and you just lay them on each other. Don't use nothing on it. Because if you use your tools, he says, thou hast polluted it in verse 25. He said, neither shalt thou go up by steps unto mine altar, that thy nakedness be discovered there. And he's talking about men didn't wear pants at that time. A lot of men didn't wear pants, and women didn't either. But it was mostly men. In other words, they might not have nothing on. They might not even have a loincloth on. You see the buttocks and all that contained therein. He says, no, don't do that. Don't go up on my altar and hear your behind showing everywhere. That's what he's saying. And so we have to be mindful of those things. Let's continue to verse 21. We're going to see some more here. Now, you talk about slavery. He says, if thou buy a Hebrew servant, buy a Hebrew servant. Now, see, you have the Western world would try to fool you on this. In other words, if you buy a man or a woman for their servitude, 6 years shall he serve, and the 7th year he shall go out free for nothing. Now, let's continue. If he came in by himself, we're in Exodus chapter 21, verses 2, and we're going to read down until we finish this law. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. Why were they, answer this question, why were they servants before the Most High? Why were they servants? He says, if his master had given him a wife, and she had borne him sons or daughters, the wife of her children and her master's, and he shall go out by himself. In other words, if the woman was his and he had children by her, they're still his master's. Not that they would be with this serving this master that they have forever, but he would have to wait until their servitude is over with, as far as the wife is concerned. Now, if he wants to stay there, he says now in verse 5, and if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges, and he shall also bring him to the door unto the post, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Is that so? And if a man sell his daughter or maid servant to be a servant, she shall go out as the men servants do. She shall not go out the men servants do. If she do not please her master, who hath betrothed her unto himself, then shall he let her be redeemed to sell her to a strange nation. If he shall have no power, seeing that he should dealt deceitfully with her, and if he hath betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. Now, he deals with a woman. To sell a woman, it's not a bride price. This is not a bride price. No, it's not. The manner of daughters, yes, that is part of it. There's a bride price in that one. When he sells her, that is a bride price. But he sold her to serve this man. Now, this seems like there's a misnomer here to cover those of the transatlantic slave trade who were masters back then. Then if his master bring to him unto the judges, he shall also bring him to, and he shall serve him forever. So what are you saying? You're saying that the man is to serve this master forever because he wanted to be with his wife and children. Is God so unjust to do such a thing? Knowing God, no. Let's continue. And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. How do the men servants go out? For them, it says he will serve 6 years, and on the 7th year he'll go free. But he's saying that the woman will not. Now, the master who hath betrothed her to himself, that's the woman that was sold to him. He paid either a price or a bride price. But what happens here? Either it's because of debt. This is the way you had in the European countries, debtors' prison and all this other stuff. It's because of debt. In other words, you owe me money. If you owe me money and you can't pay me, I take your time. So the woman is treated in a way that she is sort of a wife, according to this. She is sort of a wife to her master. She is betrothed to him. She cannot marry anybody else. And if he has a bunch of wives that were betrothed to him in this way, then he shall let her be redeemed if he did not please her, and sell her to a strange nation, either as a wife or as a slave, is what he's saying. This is a Hebrew woman he's talking about. Is that so bad? Well, according to God, no. To us that have been indoctrinated with all kind of libertarianism and all kind of new age stuff and all kind of, I'm not going to name everything, but either way, we would say, oh, that's not fair. But God says, oh no, your way is not fair. But this man, he has dealt deceitfully with this woman, in that he has carried out his desire upon her. Instead of just saying, you're just my servant and you're just going to work the fields, or you're going to do all of this. Now, this is not something unusual, even that was on the continent of Africa at one time. And some places it still is, where a man would sell his daughter, or a woman is sold, and he gets the money to pay off his debts. He uses her to pay his debts, or his son. Or a man owes so much, the guy pays off his debt, and yet he has to serve the man for a certain number of years or time, depending on the price of the debt, really. This is not in detail. This is why we need the book of the law. If we can ever find the book. This is an historical book of the law. It's an historical account. And says, if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of dowers. If he take another wife, her food and her raiment and her duty of marriage shall not be diminished. In other words, they actually marry the woman when they have taken her in as a maid servant. And if he go into her, she becomes his wife. And that is it. Now, if you have, this is what they're saying. You read it real carefully. He says, now if he taken him another wife, this is his son, he shall not stop what he've done to this other wife. In other words, you cannot stop feeding her, loving her, doing the duty of a husband. You cannot do it. And if he do not these things unto her, then shall she go out free without money. This is the way a woman is free from that man. He cannot give her the right into divorcement because he bought her. She is his servant, whether as a wife or as a maid servant, either one. If he goes in unto her and has copulation with her, then she is a wife unto him. And if she does not please him and all that, then he shall sell her to a strange nation to be a wife. Now, ye do not, he says, if he do not these three unto her, then she shall go out free. Now, if she please him not, and number one, he says, if he does not give her food and raiment and her duty of marriage, he shall not diminish. If he do not these three, food, raiment, her duty of marriage. In other words, still, you got to be a husband. You still got, she's, women then, they thrived. They wanted babies. Babies is what they understood. And many of them were smart. It's not that's taken away from their intellectual, should I say, prowess. But that's what they knew they were born for, is to bear children. Now, he that smiteth a man so that he die, I'm in verse 12 in Exodus chapter 21. He says, he that smiteth a man so that he die, he shall surely be put to death. We know whole nations that should be put to death because of this. We know enforcement officers should have been put to death because of this. There was no reason. There was no justifiable reason before the I Am, or according to the I Am's law, that they should have been smited to death, whether it was by projectile instrument or whether it was by billy club or whatever. No. Now, because he says, now if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hands, then I will appoint thee a place where he shall flee. Listen, if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hands, then I will appoint a place where he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, this is what means thou shalt not kill. See, God, he shows what he means by things. Thou shalt not commit adultery. This part about the betrothed wife and all of this is under thou shalt not commit adultery. You can put that, you can take that and use the heading thou shalt not commit adultery. And this is part of verses, verses 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, even 11. They are under adultery. What does God consider adultery? This is the measure right here. Now we go again under this. If a man smiteth a man, if you hit a man and he die, you'll be put to death. He's telling Israel, put him to death. That's what he's telling. He's telling the children of Jacob to put him to death. Whether he's your friend, if he's a child of Jacob, and you see a man is being smited to death, put him to death. If a man died because another man smited, put him to death. Now, if a man lie not in wait, if a man lay not in wait, but God delivered him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place to flee. Now that is something that we ought to ponder on. If a man lie not in wait, if he's not there to kill a man, but he some kind of way God deliver him into his hands. Who? The man that smiteth another man. That's what he's talking about. And then he will appoint him a place. In other words, do it right then and there. You see a man that just killed a man. Kill that man that killed that man. It's what he's saying. It's what he's saying, really. He says, now, if you did not lie in wait to kill this guy, he said, but God will deliver him into his hand, and I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. Right. That is the cities of refuge. Remember, they were still in the wilderness at this time. Now, if you have anything else on that, then we will gladly hear it. If a man comes presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, now this is what thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die. In other words, he finally got anger and he got jealous and he decided he wanted to kill this man. And he go back to the altar. Oh, forgive me, God, forgive me, God. There is no forgiveness for murder. There is no forgiveness in this life nor the other life. Now, the heathen nations that, that throw a man in jail, let him live after murder, is those who have made that judgment, and those who have called and those who jailed him will have to pay that price. Simply because they condone the murder that man did. That man should be gone in as little time as possible. It doesn't take medicine. It doesn't take all these little electric chairs and all of that. That's torture. Just kill him. Put it plainly, that's what God is saying. I mean, shoot, what are you? Are you a pansy at heart or what? This man, this woman took another's life. Maybe they tortured him for a while. Maybe it was hideous. This person went through tremendous pain. But God is not going to play with you. If you murdered a person, God is not going to play with you. He's going to delete you quickly, and he's going to delete you the way you deleted. Not only then, but forever. You think you're getting away with things. No. You're not getting away at all, my friend. No, you're not my friend, but either way, you're not getting away. Thou shalt love thy mother and thy father. Look at this. He says now, he in verse 15. He says now, you seen that, let's go back to 14. You see that there was a man, I think it was in the book of Kings, First Kings, where he went to the altar and he was there praying. And I believe it was King Solomon. Solomon, yes. He told him to take him from the altar because they were afraid. They did not understand this law. He said, take him from the altar, bring him from the altar and kill him because of what he done unto my father, or something to that effect. Now, this is where that law comes in at. Thou shalt not kill. God gets into a lot of detail here. Now, he that smiteth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. In other words, it don't matter. When you smite your mother or your father or your mother, you got to go. If you cannot respect the ones who have copulated and brought you into this world and raised you up, how can you even have respect unto God? You got to go. Period. That's what he told. This is the sin of Israel. They did not do these things. Many of them allowed it to be, and then here you got Christendom trying to make up for all this. Oh, the law is gone. No, that New Testament is a blow-faced lie. It's concocted, it's been stripped, it's taking the law and just taking it to another level lower, many levels lower. As a matter of fact, it's downright sin. There's idolatry in the New Testament. There's all kind of things in the New Testament that really God did not say. How can a man that called himself after God, or even you say that God's son, tell you to do things different than God told you to do it? And change the laws of the Most High. That is the anti-God you're talking about. You can't change nothing God does. Now, either way, but the world is stuck on him. It's a major religion. Okay, I understand that. That's where your mama and your daddy go. That's where your brother and your sister go, man. Yeah, it is. It's where they go. It's where they should also bust hell wide open, too. If you're talking about, I'm saying hell, that's the only way you understand it. But Enoch gives you more clarity on it. Read the book of Enoch. And he that smiteth his father, now verse 16, he says, he that stealeth a man. In other words, those of you on the African continent, your ancestors, you pray to. And selleth him. No, you stealeth a man. You take a man in war. And you sell him to the white man on the transatlantic slave trade. Some of you know your ancestors have done it, and some of you don't know jack. But either way, well, if he be found in his hand, or he shall surely be put to death. Now, he was talking about, this is way before the transatlantic slave trade. What he was talking about is you take a man and you make him a slave. Nobody knows where he's at, but he's in your fields working, and you working over him with chains or with sword and other men. And even those of you that even today that have camps and you're slaving people, they've done nothing wrong to be enslaved. And if they be found in his hands, you shall be put to death. This is what God is telling Israel to do. This is how this nation would have been found holy and clean. Now, thou shalt not steal. You can put that under that. Now, a thief can be put to death. You've taken that man's life. It's just like you grape a person. Now, he that curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. Now, above hitting and above cursing, in other words, wishing evil upon your mother or upon your father, when it is heard, if somebody hears your curse, sometimes God will get rid of you. He hears your curse. You wish evil upon your father or your mother. We'll take it to the elders. We'll take it to wherever. The council. And they shall surely be put to death. Now, verse 18, if a man strive together and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, that he die not, but keepeth his bed. If he rise again and walk abroad. In other words, if you're going to fight and you hurt somebody, and he's not dead. If he rise, in other words, you assault someone, this is what he's saying. And he walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be quit. Okay? Only he shall pay for the loss of his time and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. In other words, you're going to pay his medical bill and you're going to pay for his ability not to work until he's healed again. This is what God is saying. This is the law for those who gets into an altercation. He said, don't hit your brother like that. Don't hurt him where he cannot work, and he needs stitches and all these other things because of your anger, out of your malice, out of your jealousy. See, there's these nations that have done this. Oh, they are greatly going to pay. There's no one to do this evil to them that they have done, but God has your back, Jacob. It's not that you should wait on him. At the time somebody smite you, you smite his butt back. Yeah, you hit him. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. God don't play. Don't play at all. He said, if a man smite his servant that was made with a rod and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. You know, you're going to get beat. No, they have sold themselves. They have made themselves less, and that they have caused themselves to get into all kind of debt. Or committed a crime whereby they had to be sold under servitude in order to pay that debt. He is lesser, or she is lesser. But either way, they're still children of Jacob, and you will be punished. Either beat or whatever the elders deem. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is money. And this is what it is. He's saying if he continue and he's not dead, that's your money. It doesn't apply to the colonizer nations, neither the slaving nations. No, it doesn't. If men strive, see, this is what they try to do. They use part of this to justify what they have done to the people they have enslaved and beaten and done, and just because there was no one to judge them. There was no one to regulate these things. No one to do it. So they could do whatever they wanted, and they did it. And for that, many have messed around and found out. And you will too, thinking you will get away with this stuff. Oh yes, it's something to laugh at. He shall surely be punished according as the woman's husband. Now he says, if men strive and hurt a woman with child. In other words, you see a woman standing next to you and you fighting with a man, get away from her. Tell her to get away from y'all. That's what he's saying. So that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow. He shall surely be punished according to the woman's husband. In other words, if the baby hadn't died, I will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. If a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free. Cut off his hands or his fingers. See, you got Leopold that allowed some of that thing to happen. Yes, Congo was enslaved. But yet they couldn't go free because they couldn't get enough rubber out the rubber tree. If a man smite his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. God is not unjust. See, he knows what these people have done. See, the book of the law tells you for what reason a man or a woman would be taken into servitude. See, they left this stuff out. You understand? You see the things in this book. They left a lot of things out. The Greeks or whatever have you, the slavers, they left a lot of things out. And some of this stuff, they would try to justify themselves in it. Even to this day, those who call themselves Christians, using this law to be their guide. So therefore, we have to really pay attention to what the law says and try to understand, where is this coming from? How is this to be that a man is sold into servitude, his wife or a woman or his family? How are they sold into this? Or how were they? And if they would try to justify themselves again, lest time come upon you and you do not understand God. And with that, we're going to end here at verse 27. Well, we can keep going, but it's a long way. We're going to end at verse 27. And with that, we're going to say, if we obey those things that God tells us to do, his commandments, statutes, and ordinances, we will have peace.